understanding Smoke, I wanted to really get into understanding the personalities and psychological profiles of these two, kind of interesting characters, the Smokestack brothers. And we're going to start here with Smoke. And one of the things I've seen is people have often kind of turned them as being two halves of the same soul. And I couldn't find anything to be more wrong than that. Like, that is, to me, counter to what they really are. These guys are actually two very different individuals that simply come from the same source. And their connection is actually rooted in their love for each other and not anything that really binds them. They show their independence and their stability on their own throughout the movie, and then their decisions in the end. Now, the first visual indicator is visual. It's the colors that they're associated with. If you notice, Smoke always wears blue. And this represents a lot of things that are crucial to his personality. It's stability, it's loyalty, it's discipline, restraint, reason. All things that define Smoke as a character. So his color palette itself mirrors his temperament. He's calm, he's calculating, he's grounded. He also carries his association with the sacred and the ancestral. So we're talking water, spirit, the sky. These are all connected to Annie and his own spiritual lineage. So even in death, his scenes are bathed in this cooler tones, blues and silvers, and it evokes peace and transcendence. Now, blue becomes the color of the mortal world, the human plane that he refuses to abandon, and that's going to be important. Now, I'm going to talk about Stack separately, but to contrast him, red symbolizes passion, danger, hunger, and transformation, everything that Stack himself embodies. So we're going to see a little bit more of that, and this color palette, along with his association with Mary, really reinforces that character type for him. But that's not the only thing that we see in difference. Now, the way I see these brothers, particularly their relationship, and they've gone through a lot together. They're veterans, they're brothers. One becomes a father, and they're both kind of carrying the weight of this generational weight, right? And this is what makes them spiritual. They are coming home for a reason. After the war, they don't come back the same. They're still different, and they're kind of chasing the same thing in different routes. Now, they're both chasing freedom. These are the kind of things that can't be earned. But Smoke also wants to be chasing those roots, the land, the juke joint, the family. Again, and he's rooted in these flashbacks of his daughter. So we see that. So fundamentally, we know that, and perhaps they were once more similar, but once he became a father, I would imagine that's a big divergent. And I think they make an allusion earlier in the film where they talk about which one got beaten by the father and which one ultimately ended up killing him. I believe it was Stack that killed their father to take the beatings off of Smoke. So even that comes into it. So I look at these two brothers and I'm like, these two guys are very much complementary for each other. They're not the same though. They simply work together. They get each other's backs. They get each other. And what they're showing us is not two halves of the same soul, but genuine love, genuine loyalty in a way that we're not used to seeing on the screen. For two brothers say, I love you too, no hesitation, and it's real. But the differences between these two brothers and how they see the world becomes starker and starker as we get to know them. Now, from the standpoint of the filmmaker, the choice in their romantic interest is not by accident. Annie is a visible thread to where his mindset is. She's not just love, she's also lineage. She is his connection with the earth, the ancestors, and the invisible forces that keep the people standing. He says he doesn't believe in hoodoo and the spirits and the afterlife, but everything he does proves that wrong. His connection to her, his love for her, him carrying her talisman. He gets to say that it's because she wants him to, but at the end of the day, we see his conflict. Because their daughter is gone, that's affecting his ability to believe. And she answers him in the only way that she can is, we don't know. There are still random elements, despite doing everything to fight against that. So his disbelief kind of morphs into his armor, but his love is the proof of it. She is his unspoken faith. She is kind of his priestess in more than just one way, not just his love interest. So we can see that the brothers have different callings, right? And we'll talk about Stack separately, but for his choice in Mary, or that energy between them, which is real, it is just as real as anything else. So I'm not casting a condemning eye on either relationship, only highlighting how different they are and what they represent. Because Mary, this is more dangerous, this is more immortal, and you see that while Annie grounds Smoke in the earth, Mary tempts Stack towards the sky. Now, this is post her transformation, but I think this kind of embodies a little bit about what she is. No judgment on that. So one remains more anchored in his family, this memory of his child, this community, and he is drawn to that space. Being able to visit her grave while he was in the mortal world is extremely important to him, and I doubt that he'd be able to leave that to go live the life of a vampire. That means he never gets to see his baby again, and I don't think he'd ever want that. Now, we do see the brothers are in common on a couple of things. They're both connected to their community in very powerful ways. They're both conscious of bringing something to them, not just a business, but a sanctuary, and bringing in music that's going to be soothing for them. So they get that, and we see them operating in different ways. Now, there's a scene when the two brothers do separate, and Smoke goes off to meet with Bo and his wife to negotiate the sign, but the scene where he meets the little girl, and he teaches her a little bit about negotiating, teaches her how to negotiate. Now, that is parallel with what Stack was doing and how he's using his charm. He wants to get the piano player to come with him to break his deal. So very different in how they interact with people. One kind of the wink and the nod, and that reflects the personality of Stack, who we all love. He's a great character as well, and he's going to get his time. So we see how they're moving is still different even among these two characters. Now, by the end, of course, what they do in the end, the reckoning, is the biggest crux between the two. By choosing life, by choosing the land, and by choosing the people, Smoke puts himself in direct harm's way because his clan is coming for him, believing that they're going to erase everything that they had sold them. That was their running game, and that's how they had been keeping people down. Smoke, by making this decision to not flee, stands and fights. He fights, he kills them all, and these are the acts of a man who refused to kneel down to any circumstances. And it's not vengeance. It is not that. It is liberation, not for himself, but for the next black businessman who comes along. He is buying something for them with his life. Now, his reward, of course, is that he gets to die once. He dies a hero, and he goes back. He's visualizing what is there for him. And it's very important that his death is not a tragedy. It is a testimony. He could have joined his brother, lived forever, and ruled the night. But he decided that his humanity was more important. And that's the core of who these brothers are. That he has a legacy through this child, and he goes to be with her in the afterlife, and he tells her that daddy's here. That was something he kept saying to his daughter. So that pool really shows us the biggest differences between the two brothers. Again, these brothers were bonded by their love for each other. And they worked so well. They were really complements for each other in the field, in battle, in negotiation, in the streets. But their hearts yearned for something more, and their hearts still loved each other. So their love is undisputable. That's some of the healthiest male-to-male love that we've seen, and those displays are real proof about it being a genuine thing. So I'm going to get into Stack a little bit later, but I really want to spend some time starting off with Smoke, who I think is just the guy who just resonated with me in terms of how he thought and what he ultimately did and how he went out at the end. And that was true redemption. That was him expressing all of what the world had done to him through the beatings from his father, through the conflicts of the war, to being a gangster himself, that he unleashed it in that moment and turned all that into something good for his own community. So just wanted to get a bit in on this character and kind of break him down. We know the movie's going to be coming out again, but please, if you enjoy this, please, I ask you to hit that like and subscribe, and look forward to the next videos as I break out some of the other characters in the story.